she expected you to chase. That is the part she will never say out loud. But it is the part that explains everything that happens after you stop. Most people think walking away is an act of anger. It is not. The Stoics understood something about withdrawal that modern relationship advice almost entirely misses, that the moment you stop reacting to someone who has learned to expect your reaction, you take away the one thing their ego was quietly built on. Not your love, not your presence. Your predictable response. Subscribe before we go further. This one changes how you see every future conflict. Part 1. Epictetus taught that other people's opinions of us are not up to us, and neither, in a strange but related way, is their behavior. What is up to us is whether we keep performing for someone who has come to rely on our performance. An ego that has learned it can provoke a reaction anger, pleading, jealousy, chasing, has built its sense of power on that reaction. It does not need you to love it. It needs you to respond to it. The moment you walk away calmly, without spectacle, without a final speech, you remove the stage the ego was performing on. There is no audience left to perform for. This is why silence unsettles people who are used to controlling a room. Not because silence is cruel, because silence gives them nothing to work with. Part 2. Here is where most people misunderstand Stoic detachment. It is not coldness. Marcus Aurelius did not walk through his empire indifferent to the people in it. He walked through it undisturbed by what he could not control. Walking away from someone who has hurt you repeatedly is not punishment. It is simply the removal of your energy from a place that was never going to use it well. You are not trying to make her feel something. You are no longer available to feel something for her on command. That distinction is the entire difference between revenge and peace. Revenge needs the other person to notice. Peace does not require an audience at all. If you've ever stayed in a conversation just to prove a point, hit like right now, because what I'm about to explain is exactly the mechanism that kept you there. Part 3. The premeditation the Stoics practiced was not about predicting adversity in the abstract. It was about preparing the mind so that in the moment adversity actually arrived, no external event could hijack an internal response that had not already been chosen in advance. Applied here, someone who has always gotten a reaction out of you has never had to sit with the discomfort of your absence. When you walk away without drama, you are handing them, for the first time, the one thing they never had to practice, being alone with what they did. That silence is not a punishment you are inflicting. It is simply the natural consequence arriving without your help. Part 4. Prosoche attention to your own impressions before acting on them is the practice that makes walking away possible without turning it into a performance of its own. The impulse when you leave a situation like this is almost always to explain, to justify, to make sure she understands exactly why you're leaving, exactly how much she hurt you, exactly what she lost. That impulse feels like clarity. It is actually still performance. It still needs her to receive something from you. The Stoic pause the gap between the impression and the action is where real walking away lives. Not in the dramatic exit line. In the absence of one. Subscribe if this is resonating, because next week we go further into exactly how to hold that silence without breaking it first. Part 5. The final piece is acceptance, not of her behavior, but of the fact that what happens to her ego once you leave is no longer your responsibility to manage, soften, or explain. This is the hardest part for most people. There is a pull to check back in, to soften the blow, to make sure she is okay. That pull is often disguised as kindness. More often, It is discomfort with the possibility that walking away actually worked exactly as it should. Amor fati here means accepting that her reaction, anger, silence, a sudden change of heart, indifference, is now entirely hers to carry. You are no longer the manager of her emotional experience. You were never actually supposed to be. Closing the ego that relied on your reaction will eventually meet the version of you that no longer reacts. What happens after that is no longer a story you are in. It is simply a consequence arriving on its own schedule without needing you to deliver it. You did not destroy anything by walking away. You simply stopped being available to be used. The rest was never actually about you. Hit that like button if this gave you something real to sit with today. Drop in the comments, have you ever watched someone's whole demeanor change the moment you stopped reacting? I read every single one. And subscribe before you go. We go deeper into this next week. Until then, walk away quietly. Let it be enough.